Never wait until you feel strong. Those were the words the old warrior told his son, the night he could no longer lift his sword. When the boy heard this, he was confused. All his life, he had believed strength was everything. In their village, strength meant respect. Strength meant protection. Strength meant survival. His father had been the strongest man anyone knew. He had scars on his arms, a deep voice, and a reputation that made trouble walk the other way. People said he never cried, never complained, never showed fear. But that night, the warrior was sitting on the edge of his bed, holding his chest, breathing slowly as if each breath had weight. The oil lamp flickered beside him. His sword rested against the wall. Untouched, the son asked quietly, "Father, what do you mean?" "You always told me to be strong." The old warrior looked at his hands. They were large and rough, but they trembled slightly. "I told you to be strong," he said. "I never told you to be strong all the time." For many years, the warrior had lived by one rule: never let them see weakness. Not your enemies. Not your friends. Not even your family. When his own father died, he did not cry in public. When he was injured in battle, he wrapped his wounds alone. When crops failed one year and food was short, he worked longer hours without saying he was tired. People admired him. They called him unbreakable, but something inside him was slowly breaking. His wife noticed first. She would ask, "Are you in pain?" He would answer, "No," even when he was. His friends would say, "You carry too much." He would laugh and say, "I can carry more." The more they praised his strength, the less he allowed himself to rest. The antagonist in his life was not an enemy soldier. It was a belief, a hard belief. It said that if he showed weakness, he would lose respect. If he admitted fear, he would lose authority. If he asked for help, he would stop being a warrior. So he carried everything alone. Years passed. His body grew tired, but he ignored it. His chest tightened sometimes, but he called it nothing. His sleep grew lighter. His temper grew shorter. He did not see the connection. One afternoon, during training, his sword slipped from his hand. It had never slipped before. The young men around him froze. He picked it up quickly and continued as if nothing had happened. But that night, the pain in his chest returned, stronger, sharper. He sat alone in the dark, breathing slowly, waiting for it to pass. His son found him there. For the first time, the boy saw fear in his father's eyes. "Are you dying?" the boy asked. The warrior wanted to say no. He wanted to protect the image he had built for decades. The image of a man who never bends. But the pain did not allow pride to speak. "I do not know," he answered honestly. The words felt strange in his mouth, soft, exposed. The next morning, instead of hiding his weakness, he called the village healer. The healer listened to his heart and shook his head. "You have carried too much for too long," the healer said. "Even stone cracks under constant weight." The warrior wanted to argue. He wanted to say he was different, stronger, built for more. But he could not lift his sword without trembling. For weeks he rested. At first it felt like failure. The young men trained without him. The village functioned without him. Life did not collapse because he stepped back. This troubled him. He had believed he was holding everything together. Now he saw that others could stand when he allowed them to. His son began training the younger boys, not perfectly, not as strongly, but steadily. One evening, the warrior called his son to sit beside him outside their home. The sun was setting. The air was quiet. "I made a mistake," the warrior said. The boy looked at him carefully. "I thought strength meant silence. I thought it meant hiding pain. I thought it meant never asking for help. But that belief almost ended me." He placed his sword across his knees. "A sword must rest in its sheath," he continued. "If it is always raised, it becomes dull." "A man is the same?" the boy asked, But if we show weakness, won't people lose respect? The warrior shook his head slowly. People lose respect when strength becomes pride, when strength refuses truth. Real strength knows when to stand and when to sit. In the following months, the warrior changed in small ways. When he felt pain, he said so. When he was tired, he rested. When he did not know something, he admitted it. Some villagers were surprised. A few whispered that he was no longer the same. They were right. He was not. He laughed more. He listened more. His son felt closer to him than ever before. The young men trained harder, not because they feared him, but because they respected his honesty. One day, during practice, a young trainee stumbled and fell. The boy stood quickly and said, "I'm fine." The warrior walked over and knelt beside him. "It is all right not to be fine," he said calmly. "Stand when you are ready." The boy looked relieved. The old warrior realized something then. For years, he had been teaching strength through fear. Now he was teaching it through balance. He turned to his son that evening and repeated the words that had confused him before. "Never wait until you feel strong." The son listened carefully this time. "Strength is not something you must perform every hour," the warrior said. "It is something you return to after you have rested. If you try to hold it all the time, it will leave you." The sword still hung on the wall. He still trained. He still protected. But he no longer believed he had to be iron every moment of his life. And if you are listening to this story, perhaps you know this exhaustion, the need to always appear steady, always capable, always unshaken. Perhaps you have believed that if you let your guard down, even once, everything will fall apart. But even the strongest warrior must lower his sword. Even the strongest heart must speak its pain. Strength that never rests becomes weakness in disguise. The old warrior learned this before it was too late. You do not have to wait that long.